Incline presses are, this is what Doug says, incline presses are not optimally productive for upper pecs because it requires moving the arms in a direction where there are no pectoral fiber origins. He took an issue to that, right? As most people would who are traditionalists, as most people would who are dogmatic in their beliefs about old school weight training. So then he says, incline presses aren't supposed to be done like this, and performs the gesture you see here. Now you have eyes, you can see what he's doing there. Does that look like he's doing an incline press? Obviously, he did not mimic the motion of an incline press, and yet he was pretending to. His arms are moving almost in the direction of an overhead press. His arm is almost alongside his ear. Now, I think we should stop for a moment and ask ourselves, was that an accident? I think Mike knows that an incline press does not move logically in the direction of pectoral fibers because it moves in a direction above the shoulder and there's no pectoral fibers above the shoulder. So you needed to exaggerate in order to sort of be persuasive. He continues, they're supposed to be done like this. At least that's how I do them, he says. And he does what you see there. Clearly, that's not an incline press either. That looks like a flat press. In fact, well, flat press at least, maybe even a slight decline, but certainly not an incline press. And then he points to his upper pectoral muscles, explaining how that's alignment with his arm. Well, it's alignment with his arm when he's moving in a flat bench direction. Right? That's not his right arm that he's holding out right there. He's doing this. It's not in an incline angle. It's at a flat angle. I mean, we have eyes. You know, we have to look at this stuff. Now, let's explain what happens during an incline press and what we've been told, right? So the illustration there, the image on the right of the screen shows a graphic that's been circulated frequently. And this particular graphic here has it placed right next to an incline bench showing various degrees of incline. And it says, set your bench angle between 30 and 45 degrees to work your chest. And why do they say that? Because the graphic there has a dark blue line saying 30-degree upper chest and 45-degree upper chest. Okay, let's look at this graphic a little closer. So I put the green arrow there to show that's supposedly the shoulder joint. Okay, so the line that is straight across from the shoulder joint is a flat press, flat fry. And what they say there is it's overall chest. The two lines below that are lower chest, the two lines above that are upper chest. And the line that goes straight up there, they say shoulders, like military press. Okay, so clearly that dot is supposed to be the shoulder joint. Okay, now if you look at that, you think, all right, we've been told this for so many years, we don't question it. But put that dot on somebody's shoulder joint and look what it looks like. You can see that the flat press lines up with the upper pecs. The lower lines line up with the pectoral fibers that are below the clavicle. But the lines that are moving in the inclined direction don't line up to anything that's pectoral related. This is factual. This is not, you know, I'm not making this stuff up. Look, if we had been designed with our arm sockets right in the middle between the highest and the lowest part of the pectorals, then there would be something to move down toward and something to move up toward. But that's not how we were designed. We were designed with all of our pectoral fibers below our shoulder joint, probably because we evolved from a quadruped and moved progressively more upright into bipedalism. But we never ever had to accommodate an incline angle press historically of any kind. There'd be no reason to adapt to that. Now, here, what I'm showing is that if you're on an incline bench, your arms must go above the shoulder line. And the reason they must go above the shoulder line is because you must push directly opposite gravity. Gravity is vertical. It's pulling straight down. Gravity is pulling at a 6 o'clock direction. You must move directly opposite gravity, which is a 12 o'clock direction. There's just no way that you can then take your arm toward your sternum. You're moving it toward your neck or toward your chin. It's inevitable. So what I've done here is I've place a figure here at a 30-degree angle, assuming there's an incline bench there, it's set at 30 degrees. And the blue line that's there is the direction his arms would move on an incline press because it's vertical. You can see that is above all the pectoral fibers. It is literally crossing the lower part of his neck. Now, the A arrow there that I have, that's what I call a slight decline angle. The B arrow is the extreme decline angle. Those are both good. The A arrow is better, but the B arrow is still good. The arrow that doesn't have a letter above the A shows a flat press. That's not quite as good because you're hitting fewer fibers, but certainly the blue one is completely away from any pectoral fibers. Here's a couple of illustrations that show you from a slightly different angle. Okay, so the image on the far left, what I've done is I've taken that white arrow and I've started it right at his pectoral insertion on his humerus. And he's moving it straight forward on a flat bench. And you can see it's going straight to the highest pectoral fibers on his sternum and the clavicular fibers. Now, the one in the middle there, I'm moving it into an incline angle. You could see it is not moving consistent with any pectoral fibers. It is far above the clavicular fibers. The image on the far right is a slight decline angle moving toward the center of the sternum, which is slightly below the shoulder joint. That's where the greatest number of pectoral fibers are situated, and that is the wisest angle to move your arms. A little bit closer look. The flat direction, the incline direction, and the slight decline direction. Again, let's use our eyes. Let's use our logic. Let's not be dogmatic and refuse to look at the evidence of what's actually happening when you do an incline, a flat, a decline. Let's look at this and not be deniers. All right, so in addition to the arms not moving toward the upper pectoral muscles origins when you're doing an incline press, the line of force is also not aligned with the upper pecs. Okay, so let me explain to you what that illustration is. Imagine that you took a rope and you threw it over a tree branch, brought the other end down, tied a weight to both ends, and stood back. Obviously, the weight is being pulled in a 6 o'clock direction. If you then climbed up onto the tree and put a little scale underneath various parts of the rope, you would find that the greatest downward force from that weight is at the 12 o'clock position. That is the line of force, directly opposite resistance. If you were to measure, let's say, the 10 o'clock position or the 2 o'clock position, you would find significantly less load there than at the 12 o'clock position. Less still at 9 and 3 o'clock, obviously, right? So the line of force the line of force determines what muscle gets the load and what muscle does not, period. It's not the direction of your movement that determines that. It's the direction of the resistance that determines where the load is going. Let's look at it from a slightly different angle. So imagine that this man represents resistance and he's pulling on your body and he's pulling in a direction that is 7:30 on a clock. The load will be on the 130 muscle. Whatever muscle is at 130 will be the most loaded. So if your target muscle, because you didn't think this thing through, is positioned at 12 o'clock or at 3 o'clock, it will not be getting the majority of the load. Whatever muscle is positioned directly opposite the resistance in the line of force will be what is most loaded, whether you want it to be that way or not.